traveler to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant in my realm. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable, for when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
Things have not been getting any easier for me. What I had to get next were a bird and its fertilized eggs. The only place I could think of near me where I could get those things was a nearby farm. I knew this would be more dangerous than my last two ventures. The reason being that when it comes to farmers in my area, their method of dealing with intruders tends to be a lot more gun-oriented. I inquired about something from the children, namely, if they can possess someone, why do they need me? They replied they can only do these things with a mortal anchor, which I became by allowing them into my home. Apparently, I forged some kind of spiritual link between us, or something along those lines. I take this to mean I need to sever this connection. Anyway, I drove up to the farm and parked in the woods. I brought two things to help me, a burlap bag and an empty egg carton. I got out of my car and took a deep breath, then did some stretches to loosen my body. Once that was done, I began jogging up to the farm. I located the chicken coop. My plan was straightforward. It was to put a chicken in the sack and put her egg in the carton. The coast seemed clear when I reached the coop. I was making sure to be quiet so they didn't wake up and give me away. There was one thing I didn't count on though, the farm dog. In my defense, I thought it'd be asleep as well. I was wrong. Grabbing the chicken and her egg wasn't an issue. That was until I stepped out of the coop. I heard loud barking. When I did, I turned to see the silhouette of a Rottweiler standing on the porch of the farmer's house. I tried running, but it was only moments later when I heard a loud boom and saw one of the branches of the tree in front of me snap off. I cursed and dove behind the tree. By this time, the chicken had woken up and was freaking out. I knew it'd only be a matter of time until she ripped through the bag. With that in mind, I made an attempt at escaping. I failed miserably. I thought I could lose him by making my way between some of the animal pens under the cover of darkness. When I reached the other side of them, though, I was hit square in the face with a shovel. I awoke sometime later from a cold splash of water to find myself tied to a chair in a barn. The farmer, along with his wife, who held the chicken, was glaring down at me. "Look who's awake," the farmer said. "You thought you could get away with stealing one of our prized chickens and her egg?" his wife asked. "No," I groggily replied. "I mean, I really did need them. Look, if you let me go, I can pay for them." "Alright," the farmer replied. "If you pay us a decent amount, we'll let you go. How much you got on you?" Even though I was tied up, I could still access my pockets. It was when I reached into my pockets, however, that I realized that I had left my wallet at home. "Well, this is awkward." I nervously chuckled. "How about I pay you later?" "Get the saw," the farmer told his wife. "Chomper's gonna have some good eating." "No, please," I begged. "I have kids waiting for me." "That's what they all say." "Wait, what? How many times has something like this happened here?" 11. Every sorry motherfucker come onto our farm and take what was ours. We chopped up and fed to our dog and pigs. His wife went to the corner and got the saw. "I'll cut off his arms. "You cut off his legs," he said, taking it from her. He approached me with the saw raised. Before he was able to use it on me, however, a noise like thunder was audible from outside, getting steadily louder. The farmer dismissed this as an incoming storm until he and his wife realized that whatever was making it was rapidly approaching the barn. It slammed into the side of the barn, making it shake. The farmer yelled for his wife to grab her shotgun as he grabbed his. They turned to fire at what was trying to break into the barn, but were too late. Through the wall, first the horse, followed by the cow, and lastly the pigs in a stampede. Although they managed to fire off a couple shots and hit some of the horses, their efforts were ultimately fruitless. They were trampled right before my eyes. The sound of their crunching bones could be heard over the running animals. I saw the farmer and his wife heads get caved in under the weight. Unlike last night, though I didn't throw up. I guess that means I'm getting used to this kind of stuff. So, silver lining? In the chaos of the stampede, the saw ended up being knocked towards me. It took some maneuvering on my part, but I was able to tip the chair over and reach the saw. Once I freed myself, I got up and went to get another chicken and her egg. I would have grabbed a bag to put the chicken in. However, the barn started to collapse because of all the damage the animals did to it. I didn't have time to grab anything before I left. When I got outside, I saw that the chickens were running around. I spotted their coop, which was knocked over. I went over to it and grabbed some eggs, then put them in a basket. As I did, I noticed the animals coming back by. They didn't seem panicked this time. In their mouths, they held the corpses of the farmer and his wife. Both of them were taken to the pig trough. The pigs were eager to follow the other animals, even though I didn't see where they were taken. I was pretty sure of what their remains would be used for. Once I was done getting more eggs, I grabbed a chicken that was roaming around. Keep in mind, I no longer had the sack I brought, and she didn't react well to me picking her up. I was immediately met with rapid pecking to my hand and face. Somehow, I was able to make it back to my car with both my eyes intact. I got inside and breathed a sigh of relief. "How long did I take?" I asked the kids. "A little over 20 minutes, Abraham replied. "And I take you guys are responsible for the farm animals freaking out?" "That is correct. Our influence reaches far," Louise said. "You know, you could have checked on me. If you had possessed the farmers here, it would have saved me a lot of time. I'm pretty sure that bitch broke my nose." I looked at the mirror and noticed it was swollen. Truth be told, I didn't feel it back there. This was probably due to adrenaline, but now that I was calmed down, it was starting to hurt. "We aren't here to do everything for you," Abraham said. "We're here to make sure you carry out each task. You should be thankful we lend our help at all." I gave the kids a dirty look, then turned around and started my car. The chicken was letting out clucks of protest the entire trip home. When we went back inside, I handed her to the kids. Oddly enough, she calmed down when they took hold of her. "What are you going to do to her?" I asked. "We aren't going to sacrifice her, if that's what you're thinking," Louise said. "We'll be in the basement. Do not disturb us." I watched them go down into it with the chicken and her eggs. Once they were gone, I went to dress my injuries. Man, did that pecking hurt. I swear to God, I'm almost at my limit. I don't know how much more of this I could take. And I still have 2 days left. Part 4. Another day, another pain in the ass. I woke up this morning to the kids knocking on my door. I muttered a curse word and groggily climbed out of bed. "What do you want?" I asked after opening the door. "It's time for the 4th task," Abraham said. "And that would be?" "We need you to get a flower," Louise told me. "Any particular kind of flower?" "A Franklin tree flower." "I've never heard of that one." I typed the name of it on my phone. "Oh, no, wait. It's extremely rare." "Can't you use another kind of flower?" "No, it has to be that one specifically," Abraham said. "Okay, there's a flower shop in town. If none are there, I don't know what to tell you guys." "Let your parents know. I'm guessing if there are some, they're probably going to be expensive due to its rarity." "Wait, I have an idea. Why don't you two just come in with me? You can possess the owners and make them give us the flower if they have it." "We can't enter somewhere unless invited, remember?" Louise said. "I know that. All you have to do is tell them you want to see the flowers and get permission for you guys to come in." "It doesn't work that way," Abraham said. "They have to invite us in directly. In other words, they would have to see us." "I didn't see you guys when I invited you here." "Yes, but you were in direct contact with our father." "How do you guys have internet and all that stuff anyway?" "We have a home of our own. We do it to blend in." "Right. Wait, I just got an idea. Is there any way you guys can try not to sound quite so ominous while talking?" "Like this?" they replied with incredibly forced smiles and tones. "Maybe dial it back a little." "Is this better?" Louise asked. Their smiles weren't as wide and their voices were a bit softer. "Good. Let me dial the number." I called the flower shop. The owner picked up and I explained to her that the kids adored flowers and wanted to ask her some questions. They asked her if she had any Franklin tree flowers. She confirmed that she did and asked if they would like to see them. They replied with yes and were invited over to do so. Once they were done, I thanked the owner and hung up. Now, all we need to do is to address the, how do I put this? Aura of doom surrounding you guys. Any ideas? What I came up with was to say that the kids had photophobia, which is the fear of daylight, not to be confused with photophobia, which is the fear of any kind of light. Then have them wear clothes to cover their complexions. When that was done, we got into my car, and I drove us to the flower shop. There, I parked in front of the shop's window, and got out of my car. "I'll wave to you guys when it's time to come in," I told the kids before closing the door. I opened the door to the shop, which caused a bell to ring. The owner called to me from the counter. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm the one who talked to you on the phone earlier." "Oh, it's you," she said cheerfully. "Where are the kids?" "They're really shy, so I wanted to make sure there weren't too many people in here." "Well, you're in luck. The store is pretty much dead right now. Why don't you bring them in?" I waved to the kids. They got out of the car and made their way to the front door. They had on light hoodies to cover their faces. The owner inquired about this, and I mentioned the photophobia. She told us that she understood. The kids acted as if they were going to come in, but paused right outside the door. "It's okay," the owner said. "You can come in." With that said, the kids were able to enter. When they did, I noticed a look of worry come over the owner's face, but only for a moment. Her cheery demeanor returned, and she led us behind her shop. There, we saw the tree containing the Franklin tree flowers. "What do you think of them?" the owner asked. "They're really pretty," I replied. "Thanks. I hope you two like them." She looked at the kids. "We do very much," Abraham said. "May we get a closer look?" Louise asked. "Of course," the owner replied. The kids went over to the tree and started asking questions about the flowers. I watched and waited for one of them to possess her. I began to grow impatient from them taking so long. At last, a good opportunity came up, and they capitalized on it. Abraham asked if they could hold one of the flowers. The owner replied with they couldn't, but that she could bend down one of the branches so that they could touch the flowers. When her back was turned, Louise started spouting that inky stuff out of her mouth. The owner turned around while holding one of the branches. When she did, that inky substance launched onto her face and started entering her mouth. We heard someone gasp from the doorway. We turned to see a guy was standing in the doorway. He looked from us to the owner, who still had that substance entering her mouth, and tried fleeing. I ran after the man and tackled him to the shop floor. I tried to get him to calm down, but he wasn't having it. He grabbed a small potted plant and attempted hitting me in the face with it. I was able to shield myself. That didn't stop my arms from hurting like hell when it shattered against them. He got up and headed for the door. As he did, I noticed the plants in the store were starting to act strange. They were swaying back and forth in sync with each other. Some of them were moving towards the edge of the shelves they were on. When the man reached the door, which was by the shelves, with the plants slid off of them and fell onto his head. The pots they were in shattered against him. I counted at least 5 of them that fell on his head, maybe even 6. He staggered back and fell unconscious to the floor. That was when I noticed the kids and the owner were back in the shop. "You guys did that?" I asked. "Of course," Abraham replied. "I thought you guys could only do that kind of stuff with animals and people." "You thought wrong. We have influence over all living things within our vicinity." "Right. Well, we need to do something about this." I gestured toward the broken plants and the unconscious man. "I know how we can handle this," Abraham said. He then went over to the man and began spouting that inky stuff from his mouth towards him. It started covering the man, as it had with the groundskeeper. "What are you doing?" I asked. "We can't leave a fucking corpse here. Someone will see it." Abraham ignored me and continued. The dark stuff completely enveloped the man and started pulling him away from him. Instead of his face being contorted like the groundskeeper's was, it looked pretty much unchanged. The only thing that was different was the fact that he was still alive and that his expression had changed. He looked as if every last bit of joy had been sucked out, and that's because I'm pretty sure it was. "What the hell did you do to him?" I asked. "All I did was put him in a mental state where he's too depressed to let anyone know of what he saw, or to even want to speak at all, for that matter," Abraham said. "What are you guys?" "We'd like to know that ourselves." We took some of the money from the register and put them on the man. Then the kids pulled their hoods back on and Louise freed the owner from her control. She was confused about how she was back in the shop without remembering. Then she noticed the man and the mess and asked what happened. I told her that he tried stealing the flowers and her money, but I managed to stop him, accidentally creating a mess in the process. She thanked us and called the police. They arrived shortly later and arrested the man. He was too depressed to defend himself. He just nodded to everything they asked him. The owners thanked us by letting us have 2 of the flowers from the Franklin tree. Then we left and got back in my car. Well, that could have gone better, I said as I was driving back home. What do you mean? Louise said. We got the flowers and nobody died this time. I just saw a man get his will to live sucked out of him. Not to mention, he'll probably end up in prison for something he didn't do. I wouldn't say our trip to the store went smoothly. No matter, we got what we needed. Besides, that man will be too depressed to care if he is locked up. Thanks. You really know how to give someone peace of mind. We got back to my house. As usual, the kids went back down into the basement, taking the flower with them. I went outside to cool off. I don't know what's worse, what happened to the groundskeeper, what happened to the man in the shop. Either way, I'm getting no sleep tonight. At least, I only have one more day left. Part 5. I tried to make this go smoothly, but it didn't work out. I woke up once again to the children knocking on my bedroom door. I sighed and took a moment to mentally prepare myself for whatever it was they were going to have me do before opening it up to Abraham and Louise' foreboding gazes. Alright, where do I need to drive us today? I asked them. There's no need for that, Abraham replied. We need you to come down with us to your basement. Really? Well, it's about time I find out what you two have been up to down there. You aren't going down there yet, Louise said. We need to wait for our parents to come back. They should be here soon. Finally! They'll take you both home, and I'll be done with this. While I was waiting for Eliza and Norman to arrive, I went downstairs to get some breakfast. As I was plating up the bacon and eggs, I heard a knock at the door. I answered it to find Eliza standing on my porch. Hello, Eliza said. How have the kids been? Like perfect little angels, I replied, making no attempt to hide the heavy sarcasm in my voice. Where's Norman? He's in the car. Actually, can you open your garage? We brought something that we wanted to show you privately. I knew that what she was referring to wasn't going to be anything good. I opened the garage and closed it once Norman was inside. What did you guys bring? I asked him after he stepped out of the car. He took me to the trunk and opened it. Inside, I saw a man and woman were tied up. Why did you do this? I asked, starting to panic. Someone will probably be looking for them. Who are they anyways? They did something that hurt our family, Norman told me. We couldn't have that, so we tracked them down and brought them here, Eliza said. I see. Well, I'm probably going to end up needing to move after this. So, what are you going to do to them? Ritual sacrifice? No, nothing like that. We have something else in mind for them. The kids led us to the basement. There, I was finally able to find out what the stuff I had was being used for. The body parts of the corpse I stole were scattered inside a large pentagram made of salt with some runes drawn with the chalk and the candles that were lit in it. The items I had collected were within its circumference. At its center was the chicken. She was sitting on top of her egg in an old basket I kept in the basement. Eliza and Norman had the people they kidnapped with them. I don't know what they did to them before coming to my home, but they seemed unable to move despite being awake. They were put within the circle with the chicken between them. Eliza, Norman, and the kids then joined hands. "Step back, please," Norman told me. I did as I was told. While they began chanting, the people they kidnapped looked at me with desperation in their eyes. I could only give them an apologetic shrug in response. There was no way in hell I was going to interfere, knowing what this family was capable of. I know that sounds cowardly, but don't act like you would be any more effective if you were in my place. Anyway, when they started chanting, the other items began levitating and rotating. Norman and the rest of his family shot the inky stuff from their mouths at the same time. It went towards the couple and enveloped them. When it did, the candles' flame began flaring up. They went so high that I'm surprised they didn't burn down my ceiling. While the flames did no damage to my things, they still gave off an intense heat. Actually, saying they did no damage isn't accurate. Even though no damage was done to the things outside the pentagram, the flames did affect the things inside it. That is, except for the couple, the mirror, and the sketchbook. And then again, they were covered in that inky substance, which made it hard to tell. But the muffled screams I heard might have been some kind of indicator. I noticed the mirror was starting to ripple. I could see the faces of two people in it, a man and a woman, presumably another couple. The black stuff scratched and covered the mirror. When it did, the flames went back to normal. Eliza and the others made the black stuff go back into themselves. However, not all of it did. A small portion of it went to the sketchbook. When it cleared, I saw the man was in the mirror and the woman was in the sketchbook. The man pounded on the mirror as some shapes began moving behind him. Even though I couldn't hear what he was saying, the pained expression he made when the shapes grabbed him spoke volumes. I glanced at the sketchbook and realized the woman didn't have it much better. She had a pained expression as well. The shapes surrounding her were drawn, which made them easier to identify. I saw some creatures resembling alligators, lions, sharks, and wolves. All of them were chomping down on her. I looked at the couple's bodies on the floor and saw they were unchanged. "Should we burn them?" I asked. "Burn us? Why would you do such a thing?" the man on the floor asked. Before I could reply, he and the woman sat up. Their eyes had become black like Norman's and the others were. Abraham and Louise smiled. "Anybody mind filling me in?" I asked. "These are our grandparents," Abraham said. "Seriously? On your mom or dad's side?" "Mine," Eliza said. "Sorry for taking so long, Mom and Dad." "Oh, don't worry about it. You got us free as quick as you could," Eliza's dad said. "Who is this?" her mom asked, referring to me. "He's the kid's babysitter," Norman told them. "Yep, that's me," I said. "Does this mean I'm finally done with that, speaking of which?" "Indeed, you are. We just need one more thing before we leave, though. Help us get the gifts in the car." "Gifts?" "Yes. As part of the ritual, we needed things relating to Eliza's parents' interests." "And they like chickens?" "Well, I happen to be a bird lover," Eliza's dad said to me. "Now, if you'd be so kind." He gestured towards the chicken, and the other stuff in the circle. I helped gather it while avoiding the chicken who glared at me the entire time. Soon, everyone was gone except for Norman and me. "What are you going to do with these?" I asked, holding the mirror and sketchbook up. "Let me see those." I handed the mirror and the sketchbook over to him. He tore out the page that had the woman drawn in it and flipped it to the other side, which was blank. Norman held it over the mirror. The reflection, which had the man trapped inside, began sketching. It latched onto the paper. When it pulled away, I saw the man was now also in a drawing similar to the woman, and the mirror looked normal. "So close, yet so far. I say it's a fitting punishment for messing with us," Norman said. "You can keep this for a souvenir. Let it be a reminder to you what happens to those who bring us harm. Oh, and before I forget, this is for you." He pulled out a large sum of cash and handed it to me. The amount he gave me almost made up for the psychological damage I received. I saw him out my front door into his car. Although I am relieved to see them go, something they said has me worried. It was that since they thought I did a good job, they may want my services again. With that in mind, I am moving as soon as I can, because fuck that. One more thing before I conclude though. I feel as if I have a moral obligation to help the couple trapped in the sketch. Call me crazy, but the idea of leaving them trapped in eternal torment does not help my issues mentally. In that regard, I am open to ideas that may help them. There is one positive thing I can take away from this. However, with the money I was paid, I won't need to work for a little while, and I really need a break from all this after, moving and helping the couple. Tonight's story is called I'm Babysitting Black-Eyed Children, parts 3 through 5. The story is written by the talented author Rose Black. If you have not checked him out, all of his links will be down in the description below. Please do so. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ding that bell for all future content.
And remember, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.